Hi friends, welcome back to my garden. I am going to be doing an updated build of my shade structure. So I built my shade structure last year. I built it starting with this roughly 10 by like 15 section here with 3/4 inch metal conduit. I did it in June in the desert. Do not recommend. That's why this year it's January and I'm gonna crank it out that way it's ready, and as soon as it starts getting hot I just throw my shade cloth in and am not in danger of passing out trying to build something heavy on a ladder. So my first design was with the 3/4 inch conduit and connectors from Maker Pipe. And then when the monsoon season came, I think there was a couple of factors, but when the monsoon season came, the winds kind of ruined all my hard work. All of my upper, what do you call these? Like the posts, all of them bent in the wind about 2 feet down, which is about where I sunk the rebar. I think if you don't really have a super windy climate, you probably don't need the rebar. You can just connect these posts to these birdies beds with what are they called, like one hole straps that you can find in like the electrical conduit section. But I knew we had monsoon season, so I did that extra rebar. The monsoon winds came and storms and bent all of these, made all the top rails fall off. I didn't have the money to replace all these. These are about $10 each. So what I did instead is I cut all of them 2 feet off. I really didn't want to do that in the beginning because one, I wanted maximum height because I know shade cloth can sag and I don't want it touching anything that I happen to be trellising, but also I just wanted them all to be exactly 10 feet so I didn't have any problems with some sides being taller and longer. But the weather forced my hand and I cut all of them down so they're now 8 feet tall. And then I had an idea to save money, but I also think it actually helps the stability of the structure because it's not so heavy. So the top rails in the beginning were the same. I built the entire thing out of 3/4 inch conduit. Maker Pipe does sell the fittings kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They sell the fittings adjusted. I don't think that's the right word, but you can buy them in the 3/4 or in the 1/2 inch conduit version, but it's basically the same exact fitting with like a little plastic shim. I would have done that from the start, except for a lot of the reviews had said that they like slide off and fall down and not good. So I figured they're probably right, especially if it's gonna have, extreme summer temperatures. That piece is like plastic, so I'm sure there's like expansion and contraction. Plus with our monsoon season, lots of wind, so I opted to do the whole thing out of 3/4 inch conduit. Now, not only is that more expensive, but it was also really difficult to build because trying to get maybe if you're really strong, but trying to get a 3/4 inch 10-foot metal conduit pole 10 feet in the air on a ladder by yourself, almost impossible. Especially trying to tighten on one side of the fitting and hurry up and run to the other side and tighten it on before it falls out. Very frustrating. And then whenever we got wind, it would knock it out. I probably didn't get it on there perfectly because it's really hard, but also I think it was just really heavy. So I thought to myself, those 1/2 inch shims, if they're gonna fail, I would think they're gonna fail vertically. Like if my shovel just fell. Like if I had used 1/2 inch for the posts, I figured that shim would probably be the first to fail, versus the ones that are the top rails, they're going to be horizontal, and the shim also is horizontal in here in this piece, so gravity would not be trying to force that to fall out. So when I built my second structure, also in June, don't do that, it was really hot. I actually definitely don't do this. I built it during monsoon season and I didn't always go inside when it started lightninging and thundering. But I'm still here, okay? I was paying attention. If I heard thunder, I would count how many seconds before I saw the lightning. And then, it was mostly good. There was one time where I heard the thunder and my brain didn't even have time to turn on to count because the lightning was right there and it was really loud and it was really scary and I ran inside and I'm still here. So don't do that. Especially dealing with, I know it's got copper inside, but I still wouldn't recommend messing with metal during a lightning storm. But anyways, when I built this second run, I did the 3/4 inch conduit for the legs, the same, but my top rails, I used the 1/2 inch conduit, which is half the cost, like 1/4 of the weight, and it was a way easier time. So I used the shims and added those top rails, and what I noticed is when that monsoon season started and the wind had wrecked that first one, it did also wreck this one, but that was due to, and maybe the other side also, it played a factor, but I had some shade cloth strung between these two structures with nothing in between, and I thought that would be good enough. That shade structure was trying to, take off and blow the whole backyard away. So that's why these also did get damaged. It wasn't as bad, but I also noticed that all the monsoon storms leading up to that really bad one that weren't bad enough to bend all my posts, they were just bad enough to kind of knock off the top rails over and over. So frustrating. It wasn't happening with this one that had the 1/2 inch top rails. Only the one that had the 3/4 inch that is way heavier. I am gonna be doing this middle section when I built these new beds this fall, or replaced the beds that were there with birdies from cinder block. Not really for aesthetical reasons. I did actually really like the way the cinder block beds looked. I think they're really pretty. Plus, I had the top caps on them, which was like the perfect height to sit down and reach in the bed and work, but the cinder blocks themselves took up a lot of the space. So I wanted the full 8x4 growing potential, so I switched to the birdies, which means I can now build this shade structure because I can screw into these birdies beds with the 1-hole strap. I think you can build these structures without it. It's just a lot more peace of mind for me. On this section right behind me, there are 2 posts that are not connected to a birdie's bed, and they just have the rebar, but they were a lot harder to keep straight. Obviously, I don't have the confines of the actual screw holes, and I just think it's stronger to have them screwed in. So with this middle section, we're going to do what we did over here, where we're going to be doing the 3/4 inch posts and the 1/2 inch toppers. Now, one other thing that saved me money is because that first structure that I built was all 3/4 inch. The top rails didn't get bent. It was the bottom rails that got bent. So I'm going to be reusing all those 3/4 inch top rails for my posts on this third section here. And then I just had to go buy the 1/2 inch, which, like I said, are half the cost. They're like $6 instead of $10. So, and they're easier to work with. They're not as heavy. Now these ones are, the posts are like pretty much the full 10 foot. I think they're a little bit less than 10 foot because the space between these beds was not exactly 10 feet. It was a little bit less than 10 feet, so I did cut a little bit off, like less than a foot, I would say. So these are taller than the other sections, which I don't know if it's gonna bother me when I put the shade cloth up. If it looks ugly, I can always go in there and cut the top part off. But I also wanted to test my theory of the 1/2 inch post when monsoon comes to see what happens with the wind, because then I can keep that in my back pocket, that maybe one day I can update the other sections back to a little bit taller so the shade cloth is not touching the plants that are trellising. I already had all the posts put in except for one. I had the two 4x8 birdies beds with their 2 posts. These are about, actually it's longer than 10 feet, which was going to be a problem because conduit obviously comes in a 10-foot section, but I found that Maker Pipe has like a straight connector piece. Longer than 10 feet isn't probably as strong, but I figured it's only like a little bit. I have these already in place from before I filled up the beds. All the other sections are on this screw here. So this shade structure is going to be a little bit forward, but I had to do that because the 2 round beds all the way in the back, this would be outside of the bed if I put them on the side. I have 3 sets of the posts instead of 4, but the biggest section, like I said, is gonna be about 11 feet wide, and I think that I can just get like maybe some clothesline or something and put like something to hold the shade cloth up so it doesn't sag that bad. What we have to do today is place that final post and then put all the toppers. Here is one of the connectors for Maker Pipe. This one is a T, and we're going to use it on this post right here. So you get a flat piece and 2 like 90-degree pieces. They give you the hardware. I found it's easier to kind of loosely assemble these and stick this over the top. And think about, so the top of the screw head is where you use your Allen wrench. So just think about what's going to be the easiest way to face. So the outside, just loosely get this on there. That way, when you're on the ladder, you're not trying to fiddle with these tiny little screws. So you get this in there. Just to assemble it so it's all one piece. And when I was going to go grab this, I noticed that I accidentally ordered the wrong quantity. I got 4 of these tees and 2 of a 90-degree, when really I needed it the other way. I needed 4 corners and 2 tees. So we're only going to be able to finish half. And I'll have to come back another time and finish the other half. Might as well. I don't like looking at these posts just there, because without the like top rails, they're like not perfectly straight, and I don't like it. We're gonna do half today. I'll have to go do some ordering and get 2 more 90-degree angle pieces and go from there. So this is partially assembled. We'll climb up on the ladder and get it placed up here. So it does slide a lot, so you kind of hold it to make sure it stays straight and tighten it enough to where it's no longer sliding up and down. But when you go to actually put the top rail in, you just might have to untighten them as you get to that piece. So that's the easiest way I found. I also forgot the little shims. So this is what makes that connector work with the smaller 1/2 inch. So you just shove it on, and then you can use the connectors. I also already cut this, obviously, to size. You need a copper cutter. Mine looks like this. Get the measurement right, I'm going to place a connector here down low. I guess this is one way to find out that my beds were not placed center like I thought. This post is here, and this post is going to be somewhat more off to the side. Here's my rebar. I have a feeling this was mislabeled because I don't know if it's in my head, but this feels thicker than the other rebar that I've had before, but it fits the post, so it's probably better. I always got the skinnier ones to save money, so I don't know. It has been a while since I built it. Maybe it's in my head, but I feel like this is thicker. This is 4 foot tall, by the way. And I thought 1/2 inch. Oops. So I got this in here. All right, let's see how difficult this is not being able to dig out the bottom, but the bottom is open after all. Oh, I need an end cap. Here's the little end cap, and you just put that on the piece that's going to be the top. Like this. Like that. Now, how am I gonna get this all the way in? On the edge, it was really easy to get in without being able to dig, but this is looking a little bit taller. I think before I've tried with the hammer and it doesn't do anything, but let me get up there and see. That's as close as we're gonna get. It's gonna be sticking up a little. My favorite. Okay, I took a very long lunch break to have a think, but now it's cold, so I have a sweater on. But I finished half. Let's see. If you can see that, we have half finished right underneath of where that ladder is. And remember, I told you that I wasn't going to be able to finish today because I ordered the wrong piece. I was being dumb. The T pieces, I can still finish it and switch this out later when I get the right piece in. I'm just going to have an extra run that's not being used for anything because with the T, there's still an angle. So I'm just using the angle and leaving one corner and done. I can finish it today, so let's go ahead and do that. Broke my hand cutting this and I don't have enough of the shims for the 1/2 inch. I don't have enough shims for the 1/2 inch, so I need to go find some scraps of the 3/4 inch conduit for my straight piece. And then instead of getting a tape measure, I'm just gonna go ahead and measure the other side now. Okay, that's gonna do it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Do stay tuned for the next part in this video where I actually get the shade cloth up and make a couple of finishing details, I think, to add some extra strength. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found some value in it. See you around next time and don't forget to subscribe.